everybody? Welcome back. This is the Millennial Outliers. This is episode 2. And as always, I'm your host, Tyler Ardron, and my partner in crime, Mr. Justin Deal.
What's up, world? Thanks for coming back.
Awesome. So before you listen to the rest of the episode, please like and subscribe on whatever provider you're listening to, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube's, all the platforms. And I'm super excited. We got our first guest. We mentioned him on episode 1, Mr. Devin Dinofa. And we mentioned how much he's changed our lives in the past 3 years. So I'm super excited. I think it's fitting that, you're our first guest. So what's going on, Dev?
Nothing much, man. Thank you for the kind words, man. That means everything to me, hearing you guys, just, I guess, speak of me in that light. I don't think, at the end of the day, you did the work, and I give you guys all the credit for it, but it's awesome to hear that because that's why I do it for, you know what I mean, is to hear responses like that, like, hey, you know what, at the end of the day, because I met him, I leveled up some way or another, but like I said, give all the kudos to you guys because at the end of the day, you got to do the work to see any type of results to give anybody credit, and you guys do that. So thank you. This is awesome. This is an honor to be here, man. I was so excited to see you guys start this, talk about taking action, and this is something that I was pumped to see you guys do, and there couldn't be two people more fitting to do something like this and to, with your amazing networks and how people in your network love you guys. This is just perfect for you two, and I'm honored to be have the first opportunity to be here. So thank you.
Absolutely. Like Ty said, it made sense. You've made such an impact in our lives, and yeah, we want you to share some of those gems and some of the experience with our viewers. So kick it off. Why don't you let everybody know that doesn't know you in the area, because now we're on YouTube and stuff, and we got the whole world at our disposal.
Prestige
right?
worldwide.
That's right, baby.
Worldwide. Mr. Worldwide.
So Dev, tell everybody just a little bit about your backstory, family dynamic, and then where you're from.
So most people in South Jersey know me for real estate, but take it back. I'm originally from Philadelphia. Then in high school, my family moved over to South Jersey. And so right now I have a real estate company. To keep it simple, I just like to label it real estate entrepreneur because I do have a real estate company. We do residential sales, Philadelphia, South Jersey, but I'm also a real estate investor, continuing to learn how to get better at that. My passion and what I believe God's gift he put on me was, my high performance coaching whatever you call it's a business or a gift or whatever that is. But yeah, so I'm a founder of Harvest Performance Coaching Community, which is something that does not feel like work for 1 minute. And so I got Harvest Performance Coaching, TCS Group New Jersey is my residential real estate business. Have a couple of real estate investments, and outside of that, I have an amazing family. I got an awesome, beautiful, amazing wife and partner, Brittany. She's a partner in our businesses too. Most importantly, we're great partners in our family business. But in the work side of things, when you're in business with your wife, sometimes it could be very tough. But it has been the greatest blessing and gift for me. And then we have 2 amazing kids. We have 2.
I was going to say, man,
more than that.
3.
Man, Dom.
Three.
I'm going to play this back for you in a few years.
Wow. So we have Paige, who's 5 years old. That's my daughter. And I got 2 boys, Roman and Dominic. Roman is 3, turning 4 this summer, and Dominic's 1, turning 2 this summer. So a lot of summer birthdays, myself included, my wife. So our summers are pretty lit, to say the least, with birthdays. And that's a little bit of background kind of on me without going into, the whole story of, how I got here and all that good stuff, which if you guys want to get into certain things, we can absolutely do. But I just wanted to follow the model here. So
absolutely. Well, one of the biggest things, I think you and I talk about the most, I really wanted to highlight is that, you're just an action taker, right? So I'd shared with you, I'd heard on a podcast the other day, which immediately made me think of you, that it's easier to steer a car in motion than it is a car in park, right? So why don't you kick us off? Tell the story, because I love this is just action taken on so many levels. How you even got involved with David Meltzer, and then what you did to kind of make the words that you wanted to come to fruition. So tell everybody how you initially connected and then what you did to get in front of David.
Yeah, so one hack that I always use in life, especially, when you coming up, when you have a big vision for your life and, a lot of the people, whether it's family members or friends or your surrounding, environment of people hasn't gotten to those accomplishments, hasn't gotten to that level in life, right? When you have these big dreams and big visions, you see people who are doing amazing things like, wow, like look at the life that person, he or she built, right? The lifestyle, the vacations, the financial freedom they have, the impact that they were able to make, the big donations, the amount of people that they help, all these high level people, I always was kind of interested in learning more about and trying to always find ways to kind of be by them and learn from them. And one of the biggest hacks in my life that I learned was when you find successful people, or when you have the opportunity to be introduced to them or see them, is do whatever you can to get next to them, right? To learn from them. So what I would do is if I found any successful person, I would ask to take them out to lunch, dinner, whatever it is. And, just to pick, I hate to even say the word now, pick your brain, but for the most part, just to learn from them. And a lot of times these successful people, when they see younger guys like us coming up, especially, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I'm 35 now, I was even younger. They love to pour into the younger generation because they're like, wow, I see that person in me and I would love to give some insight, and help that person. So coming up, that's literally what I did. I always found successful people and always sought them out, asked them to breakfast, lunch, dinner, any way I could be near them, any way I can add value to them, and any way I can learn from them. So prior to me kind of doing this with David, I was always doing this. I have real estate investment partners where a friend of mine who is a speaker in Harvest, Glenn Fidel, he was on a TV show, Blue Collar Millionaires. This dude was in his 30s, multi-millionaire, owned all types of different businesses, built a massive life, self-made millionaire, came from nothing, right? And immediately I reached out to him. I was like, hey, man, I'll drive out. I just want to meet you. Could I take you to breakfast, lunch, whatever, just to learn from you? Like, I'm really inspired by what you're doing. Dude, come out to one of my restaurants that he owned. We built an incredible relationship after that. Next thing you know, in the future, I was doing real estate deals with him. And we're still friends at this moment. And if there's any business opportunities where I need his expertise or maybe he wants to invest in, he's always one of my go-tos because he's not afraid to take risks. But that all started from me finding someone and being relentless to get in front of them, add value to them, and build a relationship with them, which most people don't do. They just sit there and, wow, a person's, I got a lot of, they're doing amazing things, but they're afraid to even ask them or reach out to them, right? It's never, I say this all the time, you guys in the Harvest, not the first time you heard this, it's never a lack of resources. It's always a lack of resourcefulness. Anything you want out of life, there's somebody that you know or that you've seen or one of your connections know that are good friends with that are doing exactly what you want to do. And all you got to do is ask the right way. Right? Maybe take them to breakfast, lunch, dinner, add value to them some way. Some people are just like, dude, absolutely, come to my office. I'll talk to you. So leading up to that was always something that I've done. So it wasn't like it was the first time I did it. But when I was on my coaching journey, the one thing that I wanted to do is learn from the best in the business, right? Anything that I did, I always wanted to learn from the best. So as I was coming up coaching, I started immersing myself, learning and following the top world thought leaders, the top entrepreneurs, the people that were the top dogs in the high performance space, whether it's high performance entrepreneurs, the biggest speakers in the world. I just wanted to learn from them. So I found David Meltzer. And the reason why I really was intrigued with David Meltzer was because not only was he, crushing it financially, he was like, the 1%er when it comes to making money. But he was also so dialed in with mindset, with happiness, with like the inside game. When there's a lot of people out there that can make money, but internally they're an absolute disaster. They're terrible parents, they're terrible brothers, terrible sisters. They have the wrong morals, they have the wrong, sometimes these people are posting all these flashy things, it's the internet. It's a lot of times it could be false, right? That's not their car. So I wanted to make sure I found somebody that not only was massively successful financially, but just as successful with the internal game, because that is what's going to make you truly happy in life. It's not just money. Money makes it a lot easier to be happy because it can eliminate a lot of problems. But there was much more to what I wanted to get out of life. And I knew that set a lot of people back, not having the internal game controlled. And as a performance coach, that's my gift. That's what I like to do, is work on the internal game of people so that they can continue to grow their businesses and also be happy and be showing up as their highest and best self every day. So David was one of the best guys that had that now down. So as I followed him, you know, I was like, I got to find a way to meet this guy. So I'm sitting there and it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm on Instagram and I'm like, you know what? I said, my wife was maybe laying down. I don't even know if she was sleeping at the time, but I was like, I'm going to direct message some of these people who I follow that have impacted me. Right. And I'm just going to, I have a strategy on how I'm going to do it. I'm not just going to fan them and say, hey, I'm a great fan of yours. Can we talk? You'll never get a response on that. So what I did was I had something of value to message to them. And I also had screenshots of magazines and business awards that I've accomplished so I can follow that up with my message so I can validate myself within the first minute that they're looking at that. So they know I'm not just a fan, I'm actually doing shit over here and I could be a good connection for them. So my pitch was, hey, listen, you know, I talked about how I've learned from them, how they inspired me, but also I would love for you to, you know, potentially come to Philadelphia or me find an opportunity for you to speak to some of the companies that I know, some real estate. So that was like, wow, okay, this guy's trying to really offer me some value. So I messaged David. I messaged Tim Grover, Michael Jordan's coach. Yep. By the way, he responded. And this was the cool thing is, man, you got to understand a lot of these people at this time, they were just starting their social media platforms. So it's a very easy kind of inbox to be in because it's not flooded yet. You know what I mean? Because not many people know that they're on there. And then at this moment, obviously, he's grown from hundreds of thousands of followers. But for the most part, he responded and he said, hey, listen, I would love to meet you. Come out to New York. I'm going to be speaking at a Jewish entrepreneurial summit called Scaling Chutzpah. Come out there. I would love to meet you. And I was like, man, that's crazy. I hope this is him. Like, who knows? This could have been, you know, whatever.
Catfish.
He's like,
yeah, I'm just showing up to some address in New York and I'm about to get jumped and robbed.
Oh,
right?
yeah, man. So then he was like, reach out to my assistant. So I emailed his assistant and he gave me the date and he said, all right, you come out here. He's going to be there. So
it's real quick, not to interrupt too, because I want to make sure people don't miss this. We always hear that term like shoot your shot, right? But what I love that you did was you very strategically shot your shot, right? It wasn't just like you said, you didn't fanboy. I'm just like, hey, hoping to get some kind of reaction. You were like, here's who I am. Here's what I'm building. And I would just love to bring value to you. Because Alex Hormozi talks about it, right? The biggest mistake most people make is when you meet somebody, you know, quote unquote, above you, is that you ask them, what can I do for you? Well, now you're putting the work back on them. They have to figure it out. Yeah. You came with a plan. So just want to make sure people don't miss that.
Yep.
That's a good point. Way to drive that home, baby. You're a great host. You're a great host. So I was like, all right. I was like, I didn't know what to expect. I just knew I'm showing up. Whatever happens, happens. And I always tie it to, man, this is just a part of my journey. This is a story that I'm going to tell in the future. When I get on those stages, when people were sleeping on me, these are the moments that I'm going to tell that's going to inspire millions of people, right? So I took the train by myself to New York. And I actually have pictures of it because I like to document my journey. If you're listening to this, the number one thing you should do, especially as you're growing yourself, your business, is document your journey because you can use that to brain yourself in the future and inspire more people. So I took the train out there and, you know, I actually brought, like, at that point, I think I wrote like an ebook that I had, but I brought some magazines too, just to show them. But I also had a plan. Before that, I realized that he was sitting on the board of a nonprofit called the Unstoppable Foundation. It was his 50th birthday that year, and he was hosting 50 birthday parties throughout the country to raise money for the Unstoppable Foundation. So my plan was, when I met him, was one, shoot my shot to ask him to coach and mentor me. That's the first thing. But two, the way I was going to help do that is by saying I'm going to host a 50 for 50 party for you in Philadelphia to raise money. So I went in the Scaling Chutzpah conference. I was probably the only person there that was not Jewish, but I have a lot of Jewish business partners and I can blend in with pretty much anybody. So I found a way to be there and to make it a fun experience. So there was Sarah Blakely there, the founder of Spanx. There was the CEO of Models. There was some really powerful, influential people there. And the event was over and I was like, okay, none of these people really know me. Dave saw me on Instagram as assistant, whatever. So I was like, I text the guy. At that point, his name was Brad. And he was like, yeah, come wait in line. There's a line with people who want to ask him questions, right? Or whatever. Maybe it's autographs. So I waited in line and then I finally got to him and he was, yeah, finally got to him, and then I had all my stuff ready, and I was like, hey, man, this is Devin Dinofa. I don't even know if you remember. He's like, yeah, I know you are. Who knows? Maybe he didn't or whatever. But
Sure.
at this point, though, I definitely know that he's very intentional with his social too. So it was probably a good chance that he was like peeping it out a little bit. But for the most part, I told him I wanted to throw a birthday party for him in Philly. I told him I would love for him to coach and mentor me. And, I just told him a lot of this stuff that resonated with me, that he really inspired me with. Shook my hand and said, hey, man, I'm going to start coaching. He gave me his phone number. And kind of that's how we started that relationship, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you about the social thing, because we talk about it in Harvest all the time, right? And a big thing that you just said there was he maybe peeped your social. And the biggest thing is, though, you're posting stuff so that he can, do that. And one of my limiting beliefs before, joining Harvest was, what are people going to think about me posting all the time? And that head trash that we talk about all the time, right? Of just worrying about, what are people going to think if I post this? Are they going to think that I'm trying to sell too much or whatever, the situation is? And part of the reason I joined Harvest was because I followed you before. I knew you before, but I didn't know you that well.
Yeah.
I met you, I think, with Justin like 5-6 years ago or whatever.
Probably at networking events that we were all
Jersey
at,
Man, something like that. So I always followed you on social, and you're relentless with it. And that was part of the reason that I did join Harvest, because I was like, well, he's doing it. Same kind of thing with the Metzler thing.
Yeah.
Getting yourself in a room with these types of people. So what can you just like talk about the power of social media? Because there's still people, and I had a conversation over the weekend. The guy was kind of coming back at me like, why are you doing a podcast? Or like there's limiting beliefs. And I'm like, well, it's awesome content, whatever. And he just doesn't see it, doesn't use social media at all. More of the cold caller type.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, that cold calling is great. Like I do that, but social is just another avenue, right? To go down, and it's free marketing, right?
Yeah.
So what's your plan with social media? Because you're always posting. What do you see with social media?
My plan. Well, one, remember this: you're always going to run into people that are going to, have a different outlook of what you're like, especially social media. And you can easily say, listen, some of the most successful entrepreneurs on the planet are always talking about how social media has helped them in this day and age, right? So there are people that are never going to adapt, which is fine. But when you have somebody that says, I'd rather just pound the phones and not do social. Well, that's great, but would you rather have to do outbound prospecting for leads, or would you rather have inbound leads come in? What are the better leads when people are actually reaching out to you versus you always having to reach out to them, right? And that's the power of social media. If you do it the right way, you can get a lot of people that will reach out to you via inbound. You can be the lighthouse or the bug light to your audience to attract them to want to be a referral for you or send people to you. So you don't always have to burn yourself out every day crushing 200 phone calls a day, right? I mean, listen, at the end of the day, that's predictable. That's something you can build your day off of, but not many people want to do 200 phone calls a day for the rest of their life. That's burnout. Yeah. But what social media has the power of doing is to attract people to want to use your business. You know what I mean? And not only that, it just opens doors. Like the only, if you've never followed me on social media, I would have never had the opportunity to have you, trust to be in the Harvest. And there's been a million other opportunities and collaborations even outside of just you joining the Harvest, man. It's like people who I've connected with and went into relationship with or done business with off of social media strictly, like there is probably 30 other things that has happened in my life that was beneficial because of that social media connection. Right. So it's just endless opportunities of social media. It gets you to like, know, and trust people and get hundreds, if not thousands of people to like, know, and trust you without you having to leave your house and be out networking at night till 9 p.m. at night. Right. And go on coffee meetings every single day, being outside of the house. So if you do it the right way, you can attract relationships that can be a game changer for your business. You can attract, business. That can be a game changer for your business or your financial situation for your family. And then you can attract, what happens is your vibe is your tribe. So when you get your vibe out there, you will attract people that you want to be around, that fit your values and your culture. Next thing you know, you're making better friends that you attract it than the people that you've grown up with.
Yeah.
Right. Because these are all people, man, I'm about what he's about growth. He's about business. He's about family. He's about health. Like, man, he's about talking, big dreams and goals. Like he's about hey, sharing what excites you and not being afraid to be judged because you're thinking bigger than other people. Right. When you put that message out there, you will attract people. Sales and business is all a numbers game. So the bottom line is this, right? If you can find a free resource that can get you in front of hundreds or thousands of people a day, would you use it if you're in business? The answer is absolutely yes. If you say no, you're an idiot. So those people who say, I don't do social, okay, well, guess what? You don't want to reach thousands of people for free because, listen, maybe you're doing well in your business now, right? But think about how much more money you're leaving on the table because you're not even using social media. Right. If you're the right person, there's a good chance you're leaving millions of dollars on the table because you're being ignorant and you don't want to get out of your comfort zone to be visible on social media and to use these platforms. Right. There could be a day to where you got to pay for every single post you do. Guess what? Then we won't take it for granted as much. Yeah. So social media, listen, I'm always trying to learn it. I'm not perfect at it. There are still many levels I have to get to really use social media at the highest and best use. The one breakthrough that I recently had that I shared with you guys is, your content can't be for you. It's got to be for the audience, right? So sometimes people post for them and not their audience, and their opportunities in business development falls flat. Right. So one thing that I've also, as I'm continuing to have the white belt mentality and continue to have the learning mindset of, man, when you really think about social media, in my mind, I'm probably from a 1 to 10, I'm probably at a 4 right now. Right. So for the person who barely uses it, yes, they're looking at me like, wow, that person is relentless or whatever. But in the grand scheme of things, when you look at the people, the influencers who are at a 9, a 10, I'm probably at a 4 right now. I got so much more learning to do. And one of the other strategies that I found was, one, I got to, leveling up on video. That was another way I had to grow. The second thing is making sure that my content educates and informs people. Edutainment educates and informs and entertains people. Yeah. So I've been kind of switching up, in real estate, putting more content about what to know about buying a house, selling a house, today's market, picking the right real estate team, like little things that you would assume that people know they don't know. And this is not just in real estate, in every other business, right? Well, people know that about insurance. No, a lot of people don't. Yep. So when you're sitting there educating them more and they're seeing you more than the insurance person that they used 3 years ago that they never seen after that never got an invite to anything, an email, whatever, who do you think they're going to go to? You. So that was another breakthrough that I had, to put more educational and informative content out there to teach people, and then doing that through video. So that was kind of like another phase when you say, what more are you looking for to do with social media? There is so much more I have to get better at that I'm trying to learn, but I'm just trying to get a little bit better every day and doing video and put more educational and informative content out there, storytelling better. And even getting better at sharing struggles, like I feel like I have to do a better job at too, which people may think, well, that would hurt you. No, at the end of the day, that makes people more attracted to you because you're not out there selling perfection.
Yeah, you're not perfect.
One more. Okay.
Me? All right. So I got a new segment that I want to start doing on every episode, and I think it goes fitting here because you gave yourself a 4, and like you said, outsiders are probably like, this guy's like a 10 or whatever. And it kind of goes with our theme of the show that we're always learning, right? Like we're trying to give back to the listeners here with stuff that we've done in the past and everything like that with our guests. But also, like, we want to share stuff that we're learning because we're learning on a daily basis. And you just mentioned some stuff with social and on the videos and all that. So the new segment I want to talk about is, like, what have you learned in the past month? So I figure we kind of just go around each person because we're, like us, we're learning daily probably, right? Yep. So why don't we start out? I guess I'll start out just because I'm throwing this at you guys on what I've learned this past month. And one of the things was I took a class by Goldman Sachs, the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business course. And it's a nationwide program for entrepreneurs and business owners. And how it works is it's 4 months long, and I had to be in class all day for 1 to 2 days a week. And as a business owner, we know that's time is everything, right? So that's a lot of time being sunken into something. And the biggest thing that I learned with it was, as business owners, a lot of times we get stuck in the weeds, right? And for example, for me, I might do it today. I might go back to the office. I look at some quotes, and I have staff that's, doing all this, but I'll probably start quoting, or I'll probably start, calling clients, or I'll start doing these things. Because when I started the business, it was just me. Wow. So I've done everything, and I still kind of get into those habits of, all right, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to, send these emails out, whatever, make these calls. And the big thing with this course that it taught me was stepping back and taking that aerial view of your business and looking at every facet of the business, right? So looking at the operations, looking at the processes, spending time doing this, looking at where are we headed in the next 1, 3, 5 years? What's my exit strategy? That's something I never really thought of, right? Because we're in the weeds. We're like, grow. But what's next? Like, where's their end goal? Where are we trying to get to? Looking at the financials, not just from like a net profit line, but also looking at, all right, where are these expenses going? Where am I spending my time? Where am I spending my money? Am I getting an ROI on it? And that's something that we went through this course and really focused on each of those. And it's something I'm going to continue to do, blocking out on my schedule, right? And looking at these things and rehashing it every couple weeks, and just make sure we are headed on that direction. And not only myself, but my staff, we're all together on this ship, right? And where are we headed? Because I'm the driver and I have to portray that message, right? So that was the one thing. And then one more thing that we just learned this morning from the awesome guest speaker that I took away from it was having that nightly routine, right? Because
night routine was huge.
Huge. I have a morning routine. Every morning, we talked about it in the last episode, I'm in the gym 5 a.m., right? I'm starting to my day, not looking at my phone, hit the gym, hit the sauna, make eggs. It's the same thing every morning, right? But when I get home at night, maybe I have an event or whatever. It's always different. If I don't have an event, I get home, unwind, spend time with the kids, maybe watch some Netflix or whatever with the wife, watch some sports. We got the Sixers on later, and then go to bed. But I didn't have that nightly routine, and it really made me think, like, I got to get that down, right? My kids are young now; they're under 3, so I have to get that down. Like, I want to practice gratitude. Like, let's talk to the kids about this type of stuff, and having that like nightly routine. So that was something that was huge too.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback the last conversation with social media when we had Brian Hess on. I thought one of the biggest things, right? I use social media for a lot of things as well. But I never thought of the concept of you're attracting your future talent. And I think that's something you've done a great job in. We have a lot of people that are always complaining about hiring. And in your industry, where everybody's a 1099, there's not a ton of things that you can offer for retention, right? Yep. So it really is built off of the culture and the brand that you put out there that, again, to attract your tribe with the vibe. I realized that with Payday. We've drastically up to like what our social media game is, and we went from 18 to 60 employees in like 2 years. And when I thought back with the content, I was like, man, this is my first career. I never had another job outside of Payday, so I never like had to interview and like check out companies and see where I wanted to work. But it makes sense now, especially with our generation of millennials and younger. They're absolutely going onto your website, your social media accounts to get a feel for what's this company about, right? What's their mission? A lot of people want fulfillment out of life these days. Who are they, right? Like, who are the owners? Are they really non-existent when you think of some of the larger companies? Like, good luck getting to the top dog, right? Yeah. But we're available. They see what we do in the community. They see the events we do with our staff. And then you realize, like, people take that into consideration with the job offering. Now, obviously, you have to be competitive in the cost that you offer for their salaries. But I'd never really thought of it that way, as that it was, a tool to recruit. I literally only thought of it from the sales, from the visibility, from the social rapport. And that was like a huge, huge moment to realize, wow, accidentally we were doing it, but now I can be so much more intentional with it.
No doubt. Yeah, and you guys do an amazing job at that. And you can see, even with Tyler too, you can just see how you guys leveled up putting yourself out there on social media. And it's like, it's so obvious, right? It's like, man, like I can visualize the videos that I've seen you guys do. You know what I mean? So it does. And those are two. It's funny when you think about when the question was, what did you learn? Two of the things that you guys said were like two things that popped up in my head too. But based off of this conversation, when you talk about social media, I thought the thing that you were going to say was what I was going to say with Brian Hess, and he mentioned the importance of social media content. And he said what it does, how it helps you get a leading advantage over your competition is unbelievable. And he was like, and the reason is this. He goes, when you keep putting out content, right? When your competition, every time your competition is viewing your content, they're not being productive.
Yeah, they don't grow.
Right. So, when you talk about content and always putting out videos, right? Your competition, don't think for 1 second they're trying to be like, well, what does that person do? And when every day they're seeing you, every day somebody's sharing you, every day they're watching and watching and watching. And every time that they're watching, they're not producing. Yep. They're becoming a consumer and not a producer. And, that was, one of the big takeaways, that one of many, but that was like one thing that really stood out to me from our Harvest guest speaker, Brian Hess. And, I'll never forget that, man. And that's like one thing in this day and age, is, especially when we talk about the importance of social media, making sure it doesn't hurt you and help you, is every time you pick up that phone and you're like, all right, let me hop on social media, asking yourself that question. Am I being a consumer or am I being a producer, right? Am I going to use this for what it is, or am I going to have this drain my calendar, drain my to-do list, give me excuses on why I didn't get the most out of my day? And as much as we're talking about social media and how important it is and how much it can grow your business, how much it can help you recruit, make people want to be friends with you, join your company, use your services, the other side of that is making sure that you're working on your disciplines with that so it doesn't drain your whole day with you being a consumer and not a producer. And that's something that I'm not perfect at. I'm always working on, but somebody needs to hear that right now, because they're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And then that's the person, well, I had to get off social media because I wasn't doing shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, no, well, you're probably missing out on hundreds of thousands of dollars. You just need to be more disciplined in what you're doing when you're on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Post and ghost. That's what I always say.
Yeah.
I tell people, before Harvest, I would post, but not as much. 5 years ago, like, even though I'm a millennial, like, I'm an old soul. Yeah. So like, I wouldn't be on like social media a ton or anything. But I would always tell people, like, just post it. And like, that's what I do now. I post it and then I close the app. Like, I'm not like scrolling through much. Yeah. Or I have a mission in place. And my mission is, if I'm going to get on, I'm going to comment on people I want business from or referral sources. Yeah. So they see me, so they see me, my info, they see all what I'm doing. I have a mission in place. I'm not just scrolling just to see what people are doing. You know what I mean? Oh, this person says we business. Awesome. Congrats. Stuff like that. Having that game plan, which you talked about earlier with the Metzler thing, having that game plan in place, before you go into the mission. Yeah. Right?
That's, listen, say what you want, but that's prospecting, man. You know what I mean? That's like, hey, instead of you giving them a cold email, you're elevating them with a comment, planting a seed, complimenting them. Yep. Yeah. Then guess what happens on LinkedIn? You get that so-and-so viewed your profile. You're like, yep.
Yeah, got him.
Got him. So real quick, I do want to kind of pivot in the conversation, something I find to be really important that you kind of poured into me. So like, once we got my kind of health thing on track, really focused on the family. Like, we had this conversation. I was like, dude, I feel like something is still missing in my life. And you really helped me find God, right? And really jumping into, faith and starting a Bible study and being that example for the kids as well. Can you just talk a little bit about that? You said something to me at one point that I think one of your coaches said to you, that the Bible was one of the best business books. And just books, obviously, for life in general. But I remember being so confused at first. I was like, what is this guy smoking? Like, the Bible is the best business book. But now that I'm more in the Word, I completely understand, because it really talks about the foundation up, right? And building properly and why we do the things, and really that all the blessings are thanks to God. So can you just talk about a little bit of your journey through faith, what the inkling was that got you started and kind of where you're at now?
Yeah, so the one thing that, I've always had there's no doubt I've always had a faith in God. My family always believed in God, but it was more of like, I don't want to make a blanket statement about, Catholic, but for the most part, I grew up Catholic. And, we were kind of like, my pastor John calls them creasters, right? They go to church Christmas and Easter.
That's right.
Right. And dude, to be honest, like I really, we would do that. I remember growing up, we used to go to Christmas mass, right? Well, dude, and I used to be like, these kids that are like the whatever they were called up there, that they're going to get more fucking presents to me, man. Like, it's bullshit. Right. So I would go, right, here and there, you know, growing up. But it was always like, God was used as an accountability. Like my parents would listen, you know, you do something wrong, God's going to punish you. Like that was, it was the number one powerful line that really helped me like explain it was a religion and not a relationship, right? It was just like, hey, you know, God's going to punish you. There is a heaven, you know, he's always watching over you, which is fine. By the way, let me be honest, like, that kept me out of a lot of trouble. That kept me out of doing a lot of stupid shit. That gave me some type of moral compass to help me become a better person, right? But when I lived in South Philly, I had a church on the corner, St. Monica Church, and I used to, you know, I was like, you know what? It's on the corner, dude. Like, go to the damn church. Like, there's no excuse. So I went there, and you know, it felt good. It was just like when you go there, though, some of these. And again, I don't want to make a blanket say, it just happened to be the Catholic churches that I've attended. It's like you're just trying to stay awake, dude. Like none of it's like relatable, dude. It's like, man, you're just like, God, I was here. I was here, God. I was here. You know what I mean? Like, just so you know, like you saw me here. And then you leave and you're like, you know, you're just trying to make something of it. Like, all right, man, let me feel something. So at this same time, I was really going deep into my personal development journey. And also at this time, we were getting ready to make the move from Philly to New Jersey. And, you know, I was like, man, like, what if there was a church that you went to and it made you feel like you were listening to a motivational speaker? The content that you listen to on YouTube that fires you up, that motivates you, that gets you excited, that gets you emotional, right? That makes you want to become a better, makes you want to do more, makes you see the world and people in a different light, right? To where you left it like fired up. And I remember I posted that on social media, and really good friends of mine, Mike and Ryan Regina, and I got to give the, you know, at the end of the day, I got to give the credit to Ryan. Actually, he reached out and I said, hey man, I'm moving to Jersey, and I'm moving back to Jersey. And, you know, I explained that. I was like, is there any churches out there that makes you feel like you're listening to a motivational speaker and not just like, man, what is happening? Please stay awake. Right. And he was like, come check out this church, Marlton Assembly of God. And Mike and Ryan, you know, they have a big construction management business called Big Sky Enterprise, and they you know, build commercial buildings, commercial renovations, but they also build churches, right? So they've done a lot of work with this church, but they're also, Ryan and his family are church members here. So went there, me and Brittany went there, dude, and it was just like, it was something that I've never experienced in my life. I was like, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I was looking for. Right. And, you know, I don't have enough time to go into the details of what your experience. Like, you have to be there to feel it. Justin knows what I'm talking about. But like, man, like you go in there, there's coffee. Like, it is just the way that I believe church should be done. They have to evolve, and you still got to stay strict to the word. You never go away from the truth. But just like anything else, just like, you know, you want to modernize it to make people excited to go to, you know what I mean? To like the attention to detail. Right. And I went there and was completely blown away during worship, the amazing music. There's bands. I've never listened to worship music in my life. Some of the churches that I've been to, I'll just stop saying Catholic, but for the most part, some of the churches that I've been to, you listen to it and it was like a damn funeral. It's like
the organ playing.
Yeah, it's like, what, is somebody dying right now? Like, what's the deal here?
Yeah, Will and the guys over there,
oh,
man.
My goodness,
they bring the thunder with the music.
Dude, it's like you're at a concert, man. And it got to a point to where now I have a whole playlist of worship music. Will's actually in the process of doing a whole cover playlist. The best way to describe Will, and that I tell you, if that dude went in American Idol, he'd win. Like, his voice is unbelievable. But that was crazy for me to even experience music that I liked in church, let alone. And then, sure enough, the pastor, you know, amazing job, super relatable. When you talk about your walk with, you know, with the Bible, I mean, if you just pick up the Bible right now and start reading, you're going to be confused. You're going to put it down. The baby steps are trying to listen to a pastor, explain it, get those lessons. Then you'll get more comfortable, right, with like, man, this does mean. And then once you start doing that and go find the right church, find the pastor that preaches the truth, right, but does it, and then they'll coach you and relate it to what this Bible is actually meaning in your real life today. And then, you know, you get a little bit more seasoned. Then, you know, let me start breaking into this Bible now that I'm seeing all these scriptures and how they relate. But I'm in this group called Warriors for Christ. And, you know, one of my buddies, Brad, he was, you know, on the call and he was like, man, he's like, just because we have a Pastor Anthony on there, he's like, I just got to say, man, he was like, you know, sometimes when I'm reading it, I'm just like, man, like I just don't understand it. Right. And my buddy Q, he had this statement. He goes, this is why they call it faith, not feelings. Right. Like when you sit there and get all in your feelings, because it's like, dude, just keep going with it. Have faith. You're going to learn. You know what I mean? Like just lean in on it. But, you know, what helped me go down that path to learn more about the baby steps, dude, like just learn more about the Bible is when I went to that church that really turned it into an experience and a relationship that I haven't had with God. No way this close in my life. Most people, they want to have that relationship with God when something bad happens, right? Then they start praying. Then it's like, God, well, you know what I mean? And
I'll go to church, God, if you just don't let me throw up right now.
If you let this one thing happen, I promise I'll never do it again.
I'll go to church.
Oh, yeah. So that's what really helped me go all in on it was my experience with the church that I'm a part of. And I started to understand a little bit more. It was way more relatable. And I got to experience to feel the Holy Spirit and everything, man, my routines, things around me in my life. I got spirit baptized too, which that was very important to me. And it was awesome, awesome to do. It took me years to eventually do that. But, you know, that's kind of, you know, in the harvest, I always say, and not just in the harvest, but anywhere, like there's going to be times in your life to where, you know, people on earth, your friends, your family, your coach, your boss, your mother, your father, they're not going to be able to get you through. You know, we just had that guest speaker, Josh, on the call today. He was like, dude, nobody could get me through that but God. Yeah. Right? Like that. And you need that higher power to get you through sometimes in your life that, you know, the horizontal solution for vertical problems. And, you know, whether it's, hey, you know, if you don't believe in God, whatever that is, but some type of faith in a higher power, there's got to be something bigger than here. And we all know that there's something greater than this right here. Something created this, right? So, you know, having that faith really, and as a performance coach, I need to have things in place for my clients to get them through things that I can't personally. You know what I mean? And having a faith in God will pull people through things and really transform people in some of the toughest times that you could ever imagine.
Yeah, I love that Josh said that this morning. He said he picked me up and the cross, and he carried us. Yeah, and it is. I mean, to your point with the Holy Spirit, you know, the first I think 4 times I came to Marlton Assembly of God, yeah, I literally wept, like a baby, man. I looked over at you and I was like, I don't even know what's happening. You were like, just let it happen, man. That right there, that's the Holy Coast, man. And Pastor John's just such a. I think I also grew up Catholic, and the biggest thing I always say is, I always felt spoken at, not spoken to, right? Yep. Like a lot of it was, to your point, it was like, you know, more of a kind of a control thing, right? Where Pastor John, the first time I met him, we were at Turning Point. He's got a Yankees cap on, white tee, jeans, and we're talking about basketball. You know, it's like with priests, you always felt like all you could talk about was God, right? There was no life outside of that. And then you meet people like Pastor John and that congregation, and you're like, this is what I've been missing the whole time. So I'm glad you shared that, because I feel like that's one of those things that, unfortunately, you know, the world is trying to dismantle and break down those beliefs. And you realize, you know, we need more of that foundation.
Because that will power people up if they get in their faith, dude. That will make them become a better version of themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to add to that, too, because I kind of come from a different, I guess, angle than the two of you. I grew up Catholic, went to CCD, all that stuff, right?
I thought you were going to say Buddhist.
No. But but I haven't, like, gone back to faith. But the biggest thing I try to live my life by, and what I can respect about people who do go to church and they're really into their faith, is that you view people differently than if you don't have faith, right? So I don't know what to believe in, to be honest. There's something though, like you said, like whether it's the universe, energy, or God, or Buddha, whatever. There's something, right? There's got to be something. Yeah. But like I said, the biggest thing that I try to live my life by, and most people who have faith do this, is looking at people differently, looking at people as people, and not just they don't even, like, a lot of people just, someone in, like, say Asia or whatever, they don't even think that that's like a person. Like there's no thought of that. Where and a good example that I heard on a podcast or somewhere was that, like, looking at these people as not like, and he actually, the guy who was on today talked about it with getting sued, was looking at that person as like a 7-year-old, right? Like looking, that person used to be a kid, right? That person used to be like me. Yep. And caring for that person, right? Showing care. And that's something they preach, right? In faith, is caring for your brothers, caring for your neighbors, caring for your family. And that's the biggest thing that I can respect with people who do have faith. And the biggest thing that I want to drive to the listeners is, like, if you don't have that faith, is still, like, caring for people and still treating people as people. Maybe people are going to let you down. Like, maybe they let you down. Maybe they sued you, maybe whatever, but it is still a person. That person's still a person. And, you know, we got to care for people, because, like, that's what's going to get you places, right?
Absolutely.
You can only go so far as, like, running over people and trying to get through people. And I think if you show that you generally care about people, it will, you know, get you places.
I think the biggest thing that faith really pushes through is, you know, that we're all broken, right? Yeah. And that's where you kind of have to be humble when you come from that. There was only one perfect being ever, right? And that's God. He set the example. It's like Christ is what we all aim to be, but you can never be, right? So that's why you need the word and follow. And I think, to your point, that's why, right? Because if I realize I'm broken and I'm imperfect, who am I to judge you, right?
Right.
So since we're talking about things that carry a stigma, let's also talk about coaching, right? Yep. So I'd say over the last 5 years, everybody became a coach, right? And we talk about this all the time, that people are so afraid to invest in themselves because they're a little short-sighted. All they hear is the dollar figure, right? This is what it's going to cost you for the coaching. So, you know, you are a coach. Obviously, you have coaches. So kind of talk through that with the mindset of it, you know, how to really look at, you know, the ROI of coaching and who you're becoming. So kind of dive into that. Like, what really inspired you first to want to impact other people's lives and use your gifts? And then, you know, what do you say to those who just think, like, that sounds like a waste of money?
Yeah. So the cool thing, the reason why I love coaching, right, is there is no better feeling than seeing, like, when I'm speaking life into somebody, getting them out of their limiting beliefs, getting them to do something that they wouldn't have done without the conversation that we just had. And I see them have these breakthroughs and, like, get to the other side of it. You know, that's better than any deal. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you know, like, when I'm speaking life into somebody and speaking to a client or whatever, man, like, even on this, like, I am in pure bliss, dude. There's nothing. I could do this all day, every day for 24 hours a day. Like, I can be in here jamming it out right now. So that was, you know, ideally, I knew that this is my favorite thing to do, is speak life into people and have them chase the next version of themselves and eliminate the blocks that most people get buried by, the mindset blocks, the habit blocks, the relation, all that stuff, to help them keep moving forward, right? So that's why I love coaching. Now, the first thing, you know, people have to understand when it comes to coaching is identifying what is it right now that you're trying to level up in, all right, that you're trying to turn decades into days on. So I don't know, let's just say, you know, hey, you know what? I need to get all of my systems and processes and orders in order for my company, right? You're not going to come to me to do that stuff, right? So, you know, depending on, ideally, all right, what is it? What problem are you trying to solve? Find the person that sits in that position that has a track record of doing that successfully, right? And hire that person. And yes, it may cost you $1,000. It may cost you $5,000, but at the end of the day, it's going to save you hundreds of thousands, or make you hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's going to save you years of your business. Right? So making sure that you're clear on what it is that you need help with, and finding somebody and like doing your research on that person, seeing if they, hey, if they have a track record, they got testimonials and they've helped somebody solve this specific problem, right? That's how you turn decades into days. That's a cheat code to life, right? So just like anything else, right? When were you, let's just say, to keep it very simple, when were you best performing in your health, like with your mindset, with activity, right? And a lot of times people go back to, you know what? When I was in sports, I was really getting the most out of myself because there was a coach there holding you accountable, pushing you. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with life and business, right? Like there is no doubt that if I'm having a conversation with an entrepreneur once a week and we're really digging in, they're going to perform at a higher level every single week. Now, what are they leaving on the table by not performing at their highest and best level every single week is the question. It's not the $1,000 a month that you're putting out. It's what are you losing $50,000 a month because you're not knocking out the to-do list that's going to move you forward, mm-hmm. right? So there's all types of different strategies on making sure like what it is, what problem you're trying to solve, what coach to pick. For me, I'm in the lane of performance coaching, right? So what I do is help people execute the shit that they've been trying to do and that they keep telling themselves that they're going to do, but they don't execute. I also help them get out of their own way when they have limiting beliefs, mental setbacks, all the self-inflicted wounds that people give themselves every single day that hold them back, right? So what I do is help people continuously become the best, highest, and best versions of themselves for themselves, their family, and their business, like the people that are in their world, mm-hmm. right? Because at the end of the day, like the marketing program, the this coach, the that coach, at the end of the day, this is the way I relate it. Let's just say you have a sports car, right? The performance coach is the person who consistently makes sure that engine is operating the way it should, mm-hmm. that keeps going no matter what, right? Then you add the EOS coach. Okay, so that's like I just got new tires for my car, mm-hmm. right? Then you add, I don't know, let's just say a marketing funnel coach, right? All right, cool. Now you just got new headlights for your car, right? These are all add-ons, right, for adding on to the mainframe, making sure that mainframe is firing at all cylinders every single day so you can execute all these other things, mm-hmm. right? So it's just identifying what, like, in my mind, truly performance coaching could impact anybody because it knocks down to-do lists. It makes you healthier. It makes you happier. It makes you more accountable. It pushes you to do more. And all the other things that you want to add to that, yes, you invest in that too. People are so afraid to invest in themselves, but they'll go out and spend $1,000 a month on bars and drinking and eating like shit. Yeah. Like if you really get granular. So that is truly up. And dude, there's some coaches where, sometimes you just want to be a part of, their world for resources, right? Like, I always like to tell people, like, listen, one thing, because the reason why I study so much, all different types of coaching, entrepreneurs, podcasts, is because I don't want to be one-dimensional, right? It doesn't matter what personality of a person that I'm coaching. I'm going to be able to speak with them. I'm going to be able to give them relatable, tactical advice so that they can get to that next level. And listen, there are some, like, my passion and energy vibe with a lot of people to where there are some coaches that, and I've hired them or whatever, where it's like, man, I just like, I get what you're saying, but like, I'm not fired up after this or whatever. But picking, strategizing, really reviewing if that coach or advisor is good at what they do, looking at testimonials, all that stuff is good. But at the end of the day, this is truly what it comes down to, right? Is you mentally have to tell yourself, I'm going to do the work. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many coaching clients I have and had that I gave them the solution months ago and they still haven't executed. And
you're not going to do it for me?
And we get on the call and it's still
to the water?
It's still talking about the same bullshit. And then it's like, dude, like, let's get to the root here. You have to knock this out. Like, you know what I mean? So you have to, because everybody wants to blame everybody else why something didn't work. Yeah. Right? Yeah. That is the natural reaction for most humans. So when you're seeking out coaching, you have to mentally be ready and make that commitment to yourself that, you know what, like, no matter what, I'm going to execute. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm going to execute what I'm being told. Self-accountability, man. Self-accountability can set you free. Yep. So that's my advice on coaching in general. But man, you can never make a bad investment if you're investing in yourself. And, like, dude, some of the greatest entrepreneurs, it's like, You know, I even had thoughts too, like when I'm in a different level, you know, shit, man, I just may, you know, when I'm like super financially free, I just may fucking pay whatever, 5-10 grand just to roll a few days, like personally with these high level entrepreneurs to follow, you know what I mean? Just because I know, like, all it takes is one piece of information that can make you a millionaire or make you another $100,000, or that person could be the connection to get into that person that can, you know, there. Yeah, like the connections that I got from Dave, I've been coaching with Dave for years. Yeah. Like, dude, you can't put a price tag on some of the introductions and connections that I gotten from Dave.
And the overall exposure, the TV show, the podcast.
Oh, dude, and it's not even done. These relationships, I mean, you know, some of these relationships could be cashed in 5 years from now and make me a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the way. It's all about how you look at things, but you also have to make the commitment of like, I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, which most people won't.
Yeah, taking action. And me and Justin talked about this before with taking action. And the biggest thing, like you said, is you told this person, say, 9 months ago or whatever. And the biggest thing is like with health, that's the one thing that you can't hide, right? Like, I'm sure it happens to you all the time, Justin, when you're in these one-to-one meetings and stuff, and the person, oh yeah, I've been eating, you know, I've been hitting the gym every day. It's like, dude, well, you look, you know, you can't hide that, right?
You can't really lie about that one.
The scale doesn't lie. And that's something that, you know, you can lie to yourself all you want, but with health specifically, those results only show if you're putting in that work and taking action, right? Yeah. So we're getting to the end here. We're almost at time. But before we head out, I want to do one last topic that we're going to start doing with all of our guests. And that topic is a failure that you had whenever. It could be growing up, it could be in business, whatever, but that helped you learn the most.
A failure that helped me learn the most. I'm trying to think here. Not that I didn't have a lot of failures.
Just trying to figure out which one, right?
Yeah. All right. So something that would help, like, give the biggest lesson. You know, I feel like God always has a plan for my life, but one lesson that I've really learned was when I was in high school. I was you know, looking to go to college to play football. And, you know, I was made all-star team sophomore year, made all-star team junior year, rated golden 11, had some college letters looking to go to college. I was a captain of the team my senior year and, you know, had a whole new coaching staff come in. And, you know, the bottom line is the coaching staff, one of their strategies was riding my ass to show that they're like, hey, we're not putting up with any bullshit, and I was a target. And, you know, I was a pretty easy target, you know what I mean? I was, you know, I was very loud, you know what I mean? I could talk shit, but I could back it up. But I eventually, you know, what is it called? I don't want to say spring training, it's football, but like, let's just say double sessions, right? Before the season even started.
Like in the summer, right?
Yeah. I was running sprints, and I didn't finish first. And one of the coaches was like, that's it. The team's doing up downs. Devin didn't finish first. And at this point, I was just like, I had it. I was like, this is getting ridiculous now. And keep in mind, I wasn't the fastest running back, right? Let's be real. Like my other guys that were running backs, I was the only white dude back there. They were faster than me.
Back there.
You know what I mean? They were faster than me. But I was I finished the next sprint first, and I said under my breath, "Are you effing happy now?" Sure enough, he heard it. I don't know how.
They always hear it. It's unbelievable. Coaches they have something for that.
So they said, get off the field. I threw my helmet. Turns out I was kicked off the team, right? My senior year. The biggest lesson that I'll take from that is, one, I just preached about self-accountability, and that's a hard lesson on self-accountability. It's like at the end of the day, if I didn't give these coaches something to rag on me for, they would have never ragged on me. So I'm sure that I was doing something, and if I was the captain, that should never, ever, ever be an issue. Effort should never be an issue that you'd have to coach. And it also just taught me that, man, never get too comfortable. Everybody's replaceable. That's the bottom line, dude. You know what I mean? That. Like it doesn't matter. I mean, we just had the guest speaker today, Josh. He was leading a whole division in the finance and hundreds of employees, right? He got the rug swept out from under him, knocked right down to the bottom of the hill. Yep. Never get too comfortable. just never get high on your own supply.
That's
You know,
right.
however you want to.
That's
Love
right.
that.
You know, just like the one thing that I always like to say is, never get too high, never get too low, stay in the middle. You're never as good as you think you are, but you're never as bad as you think you are.
Amen.
Right. So that was, and shit, man, even as I'm relentlessly like, auditing myself every day, the hardest critic on myself, I find myself still getting comfortable and I got to snap. I'm like, dude, you're getting too comfortable here. We need way more effort. You're like, you need to be doing more here. Right. So I was just trying to find like what I felt could be a relatable and best lesson that would be better for the viewers versus like, the shit that just happened last week. You know what I mean?
No, I think that was awesome. Yeah, I think that's a great lesson.
I just want to take a second. I want to thank you, obviously, for coming on to the podcast. But more importantly, man, I really, we talk about this all the time. And I know you don't love when I say these things, but you really have helped me to create just me as a better man, as a better husband, as a better father, as a better follower, as a better leader. And, I will truly always be indebted to you for that. So I just want you to know how much I appreciate the impact you've created in my life, and that I'll continue to kind of ripple out into others.
Yeah. And, obviously every time you say that, I'm like, dude, you did all the work.
He's going to say
that is always the response.
Yeah.
We go back and forth. No, you helped me. No, you helped me. No, you helped me.
No, man, it's as awkward as is for me to hear that, but like it's so refreshing. You know what I mean? And, it pumps me up to continue to see like, it's like you plant that. Well, there's a lot of things that you taught me that I try and implement, especially with my 3 kids. I see him like crushing it with 4 kids.
Right?
Dude, I'm like, all right, how can I be as calm as Justin with this? Like this guy's fucking coming out with 4 kids. I can't leave the house with fucking 2 of them.
I'm with you.
You know what I mean?
He's like, I'm going to the beach with the 4 kids over the summer. I'm like,
you are nuts, dude.
We talked about that last episode. Ty was like, yeah, I get to 2 and I'm overwhelmed. And I was like, I'll just be quiet. I'm not even rain on
this
your
guy's on the
parade
beach
right
with
now.
all 4, just him. I'm like, dude, that sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah,
man. But thank you, man. Both of you. Thank you so much. And those words obviously mean a lot. It's like so many, sometimes just like in leadership, right? It's like the leadership is one of the most thankless jobs, right? It's like people just expect, you know what I mean? And you don't really hear like, dude, I just want to let you know, like you were really doing some good stuff. Because sometimes when, just like you guys, like you can be great leaders and some people just say, hey, that's what I know them for. They take it for granted, right? And there's so many people in our lives right now that we think like, man, like I never told that person that. Yeah. And I always just, hey, that's just who they were. They were always doing this and it always helped me and that's all I know of this person. Right. But like, it is always good to hear those compliments because behind the scenes, it's like, man, am I doing enough? Am I doing enough? It could be better. It could be better. What else could I be doing? Yeah. You know what I mean? So I can't sit here and lie and say, dude, I'm like grateful to hear that. And it makes me, fired up and feel good to keep going and keep helping and obviously see you guys do the same stuff, which you are doing. And especially this is going to be a whole nother level of it through stuff like this. Mm-hmm. Can't wait for the podcast. Podcasts don't work, right? Next thing you know, you guys are going to have thousands of listeners while that person has to make 1,000 calls from people that are shutting them down every single day.
Yep.
So
yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, like Justin said, you changed my life as well. And that's why we're here doing this, right? So there's just so much that's come from it. But we just want to both, thank you for jumping on. Thank you for being our first guest. And we're at time. So this was episode 2 of the Millennial Outliers. And like I said in the beginning, make sure you like, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're looking at. If you can, leave a review on Apple or whatever platform you're on. It definitely helps with driving more people to us. And we hope you enjoyed it. We will see you on the next one. And Justin?
No, it is. Best day ever, friends.
Best day ever, gang.